Ever stared at your blank screen for like 45 minutes trying to write the perfect marketing email? Well, I don't write mine in 45 minutes. I write mine in two, and I don't use AI. And they still get replies, clicks, and make sales. It doesn't start with copywriting, it starts with something that you already have. I've sent over 1,000 emails this way, and my clients have sent even more. And I'm going to show you how I do it right now. The mistake that most people make with their marketing emails is they try to write something really clever completely from scratch. Instead of that, I start by looking at my last 24 hours and noting the most interesting things that happened. At its core, marketing is just storytelling with a point, and your life gives you stories that you can tell every day. Here are some real life examples from my life in the last day or so. My middle son got his first job ever, and he's working at an arcade, and he loves it. My youngest son is playing football, and he just started high school, and he even added weightlifting classes on top of his existing studies. I took my dad to go see a movie on Saturday. My wife and I are currently planning a trip to New York. We got a dog recently, and he doesn't love to go on long walks. And I just opened up the doors to a workshop I'm hosting next week. Those are some basic, simple examples of things that have happened to me in the last roughly 24 hours. And I could easily write an email about any of them. And that's where my email ideas come from. Not from ChatGPT, not from templates, just from me noticing things that are happening in my life. Now you're probably wondering, well, how do I turn those simple stories into something that makes sales? And I created a 4-part framework that makes it really simple. It spells out the word Slack, but without the K. The S stands for the story. The L is the lesson you learned through that story. The A is how you want your readers to apply the lesson that you learned on their behalf. And the C stands for the call to action. This structure does all the heavy lifting, so I don't have to overthink every sentence. The story should be something small but specific. Oftentimes it can happen in a few sentences, and I include some basic story structures. Where were you? Were you with anybody? And what was going on? That's usually enough to capture the story in a few sentences to give people a sense of time and place and action. The next part is the lesson. So the story is about your experience and what you went through, and the lesson is what happened to you along the way. What did it remind you of? The A stands for application. Now, how do you want your readers to apply the lesson that you learned to what they're going through? And the call to action is, what would you like them to do next? Should they click on a link, watch a video, send a reply? That's it. That's the 4-part Slack process I use for story-based emails. And if you hear this and you're struggling to think of some story ideas, I actually put together 202 of my best story ideas into a handy checklist, and you can download it at the link in the description. Sometimes when I share this method with people, it sounds too good to be true, but one of the big pushbacks I get is people that say that their life isn't that interesting. You don't need some dramatic life. You don't need to be flying private and adopting exotic animals and having a camera crew follow you around all day. I don't. You don't need a dramatic life. You just need to be leading a curious one. If your life feels boring, it's probably because your routines are fixed. So get out there and go do something different. Try a new restaurant, drive a different direction, pick up a new hobby. That'll give you endless ideas for stories. Different inputs equals different ideas. And that's what creates great content. Anytime I take a trip or have some kind of awesome experience, my emails are awesome that week. So think of it this way. You don't find great stories, you notice them. Here's why this simple method works, even if you're not a so-called writer. With this system in place, you'll notice it's a lot easier to send emails, and you're going to write them a lot faster. I've written emails 3 minutes before I hit send, and they've outperformed ones I've spent hours on. So it's not about being a better writer, it's about being a better noticer. And those stories, those little windows into what your everyday life is like, will resonate with your audience far more than leveling up any kind of technical writing skills. And that's the formula: a story, the lesson, the application, the call to action, plus your sense of curiosity. That's how I write emails in 2 minutes without having to use AI. By the way, stories do way more than what I've been able to share with you so far. They actually dramatically increase your sales. To find out how, just click the video on the screen. I'll show you how to build a laid-back email strategy that still makes sales. I'll show you right now.